This one is about a drive that I took, 3,000 miles here, and it's on V12.3.6. It just came out. In fact, it came out during the drive, actually. And I wanted to kind of make some notes on what happened, how it performed, and what I liked and what I didn't like. One of the things I should say is this is absolutely the best it's ever been by far. Well over 98% of this drive was done on full self-driving with very few kickouts, couple of mistakes it made. I'll go through some of the mistakes, but it has been very, very good. And mostly, from a driving standpoint, it was kind of boring. It just took care of business. I would just drive along supervising, just like it says, you're supposed to be the supervisor. And it took care of almost everything with some really spectacular operations that I didn't know it was capable of. There's going to be some fails in here, but this was a good one. So let's see what happened. Okay, this is a really interesting thing that happened. I really wasn't ready for this, but if you notice up here, there's a gap. And we're going to stop there, and there's somebody waiting to make a left-hand turn. Now, normally this thing would just go up and fill the gap, but it didn't. It waited for this person to make their left-hand turn, and then it just continued on. I thought that was pretty spectacular. Now, this one is kind of interesting. 4-lane freeway, just passed a vehicle coming up on another vehicle, and it's going to pass him, and it's just rolling along, and there are cars that would like to pass me behind me, but it keeps in the left lane as long as it's overtaking other vehicles, at least at a reasonable speed. And I thought this was the right way for this to operate. I thought it did a really good job there. And it pulled over and let other people by. Now you can see pretty soon we're going to have somebody coming up on the left. See, he wanted to go faster than I would, but the car went ahead and said, okay, I'm going to pass the vehicles that are close to me before I turn over. That's exactly what I would have done. Now this one, we're coming up to a stop sign. There's a skateboarder going to come across here, and we've already got the green before the skateboarder comes across. Now you can see he comes across, the car waited just a little bit and then just continued on. That's exactly the way I think it should be done. It didn't freak out and stop or anything like that. It just continued on its way. I thought that was a really good interaction. This one isn't real obvious. This braking never is, but it seems to brake much too late when it's going to make a corner, and it brakes too hard. It should be only using the regen in most cases. But in this case, you know, it was doing as it normally did. My biggest complaint is it slows down too late. Here we had a pretty big mistake. We're going to be making a right turn off of this acute angle, and it really screwed up here. So let's just watch what happens. Okay, we have enough clearance now, so we should be able to go. Now it's going to take off. Now look what it did.
Jesus.
Okay, you saw that truck. He's honking at me because I'm way over in his lane. That was a pretty big mistake. It should not have done that. It should not have gone over that double yellow line. Now here we're coming up. This is kind of a passing lane issue, where we have a 2-lane and it goes to a passing lane. It oftentimes goes to the left lane. Unless there's a slower car ahead of us, it should not go to the left lane. It should go to the right lane. And sometimes it would go right, sometimes it would go left. But the decision should usually be to the right lane if there's no slow traffic in that lane. Now this is just an interesting one. Watch very closely and you're going to see a deer run in front of that RV in front of us. Just barely missed him. Now this one is just a kind of a fun one that I thought was interesting because we're at 9,000 feet here and right close to the Nevada border, and we're going through this pass. I can't remember the name of the pass, but I thought I would just put this in because it was interesting and beautiful scenery. Down on the other side of the pass, I just noticed there was an awful lot of nagging. This is, I think Nitz has kind of pushed this thing. It starts griping at you if you're not turning the steering wheel. Boy, I don't know, I had my arm hanging on it all the time, and it virtually would do this anyway. It just didn't make any difference. That's a big change from how it used to be. And of course the nags are closer together. Sometimes I've got one right up here that you're going to see that I have no idea why it even came about. It was like, freaking out, going to shut off or something, and then it just went away. Okay, on the way down this pass, of course this is a pretty curvy road, and it did have some problems with the curvy road, especially the hairpin turns. And in one case here that's coming up here right quick, it actually just went on the wrong side of the road, and just, there's a car coming and the whole bit. So that was another kind of big mistake. As you can see, I kicked it off there because I was afraid this thing was just going to go completely on the wrong side of the road. It does have problems with these really windy roads. Oftentimes I have to give up at some point during the road because it just gets mixed up and gets on the wrong side or some crazy thing. This is interesting. Just look ahead and you're going to see a Cybertruck in the wild. Okay, here we're going to be coming up onto a roundabout, and this thing was absolutely flawless on the roundabouts. I had virtually no problems with it going through roundabouts. This is a 2-lane, which is a little more complicated, and it just goes through it beautifully. It's so much different than the way it used to be. Uh, See, it waits for that car, then it goes right on through. Uh, Usually that 17 or 18 miles an hour is about what it does through the roundabouts, which is just about perfect. Okay, this one's interesting. Keep your eye open on the right-hand side and you're going to see something kind of cool. That is a '59 Cadillac for sale. This is Virginia City. We went up to Virginia City. It's right out of Reno. And I just thought it was kind of cool going through this old town. We took a walk through the town and everything. So, been through here before. Just a neat little old westy type tourist town. And as we came out of the town, I thought it was interesting. See that metal plate? It actually slowed down for that metal plate. I haven't seen it slow for that type of thing. Maybe he thought it was a speed bump or something, but I haven't seen it react to that in the past, but it did for this one. Okay, here we're coming out of Virginia City, and we're going to go down a very windy road. And even though there were some problems with the tight corners, it determined the speed very well, and it managed to come into the curves at about the right speed every time. And here we're speeding it up just a little bit, not going quite that fast. But it was quite the windy road all the way down. And then Reno's down below. Okay, this one, there's a construction zone ahead, and they've got one of the lanes blocked off. And I've kind of speeded it up here because it takes quite a while to get there. It did go to the left lane, which with the right lane was going to be closed, but I'm not sure it went to the left lane because of that. But it did stay in the left lane, and there was some reduction in speed as it went through the construction zone. It was up at 70 miles an hour, and it did drop down to about 58. Not absolutely sure it was working because it understood that, but it did make quite a bit of difference in the way it worked with that construction zone. And right after that, it went back up to 65, eventually got back up to 70 miles an hour as we were moving along. Okay, here, this was really odd because it missed a green light. Here, the light's red, and when it turned green, it just sat there. And I had to hit the throttle to get it go through. The only thing I could think of is it was seeing the other light, the left turn light or something. But it just flat spaced out that green light. Okay, I have to put this in. You gotta love the acceleration on a performance Model S. It is so fast, it's crazy. That was one of the more gentle passes. Love those 2-lane roads. Now this one's a little goofy because it departed its lane and then yelled at itself because it departed its lane. Okay, all I can think of is one part of autopilot does not understand what the rest of autopilot's doing, and I guess it's arguing with itself. That's all I can think of. Okay, this one sees it reducing speed for utility workers on the side of the road. And it may just have simply been that they were out of their vehicle, because it does slow down for pedestrians, but it did slow down a lot for that utility truck and the workers. Okay, here we're on the freeway again, and I'm passing a vehicle. Now, it did not come back from the left lane. There's someone coming up behind me a lot faster than I'm going. I'm going about 70 miles an hour. And should FSD have pulled over? Well, let's just watch this. Okay, there he goes. He's traveling quite a bit faster than me, and he went over to the right lane to get around me. And I actually think FSD was correct on that, because when somebody's coming up behind you pretty fast, if you move out of the lane, oftentimes they've already moved into the right lane to pass. So that could have been the right decision. Okay, this is something that I don't believe FSD has managed to do yet. You either have to slow down or you have to move over. I initiated that lane change for that vehicle, but I would have violated the law if I had not have either changed lanes or reduced speed. As you can see here, it's raining and wipers are not working. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I think everybody has this problem with this silly thing. It went through this when there's very heavy rain, it worked fine, but when you got enough rain on the windshield that you got drops running across it, the windshield wipers should have come on. Okay, this was interesting. We're coming up to railroad tracks here, and I want you to watch what this thing does. Now that car is going ahead of me, and then there's a stoplight up there. Okay, the car did not go ahead. It stayed off the railroad tracks. I haven't seen it do this before, but that was the right decision to make. Okay, this one's interesting because the truck's going off the road, and I have seen it actually follow vehicles when it pulled over to park, but it pulled this one through amazingly well. Okay, I went through some fairly heavy rain around Portland, Oregon, of course, and it reduced speed considerably for the rain. Now this is it's determining the speed it should go. Now, you'll notice here, there's an awful lot of cars passing me. I was actually fairly satisfied with the speed because in some places we were getting to the point where we might have hydroplaned. There's going to be a lot of water on the road. And I guess FSD was the only sensible person on the road, but that's not unusual. Later on, as the rain started easing off a little bit, it started speeding up. I was really happy with the speed control in most cases. Sometimes it's a little too fast in the residential districts, but on the highway, I think it was doing about the right thing. Like I said, there's a fair number of people past me, especially when it was raining harder, but I thought the car was making the right decisions. So this thing is doing some really good decision making anymore. Okay, curvy lane going down the Columbia River. Light rain, but still a wet road. It was making really good decisions here. It was adapting to this curvy road, which made me feel pretty safe, letting it just kind of do its own thing. And it did this for a long time. It pretty much worked flawlessly in the rain. A little later, speed went up a little more. We're up to 69 now. And it just, I don't know, it made it feel very safe. I thought this thing did a really good job on this entire trip. Okay, to sum up, this was the best trip I've taken on FSD. I've taken a lot of trips on FSD. This has been by far the best. I feel very safe with the thing. It made very few mistakes. It was, I don't know that I drove 20 miles out of 3,000 miles. The rest of it was all just me supervising good old FSD, hanging on that steering wheel, letting it nag me every once in a while, even though I'm hanging on the steering wheel. But not blaming Tesla on that. NHTSA's what I blame for that one. But this thing really seems to have turned a corner on here. And it's really good now. Really good. Okay, that's it on this one.